So the Game Awards 2024 Game of the Year nominees have been revealed, and while there's some awesome stuff on there, I was off by one game on my own predictions. There's definitely a few issues that I want to go over with the award show, so we're going to get into that and a bit more. But before we do, what's good everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos and live streams first. And let's go ahead and jump right into the nominations. I'm going to go over first my predictions, and then we'll go over the nominations. Starting out, I had Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree flexed in there once they conveniently changed the unwritten rules, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and Balatro. Those are the games that I had, and I was off by one game. The actual nominations were Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Black Myth Wukong, and Balatro. So I was off by one on there. I didn't think Black Myth Wukong would get in because it is now officially the lowest rated game to ever get nominated for the Game of the Year award at the TGAs. And I think that essentially the voters probably voted it in because it sold incredible and it kind of was like a moment in Unreal Engine 5 and in gaming. There were definitely other better games that I feel, at least just my own personal opinion, obviously it's subjective, but I feel like games like Tekken 8 should have got a nomination, potentially even a game like Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, Unicorn Overlord. I think there were definitely a number of titles that maybe could have got the nod over Black Myth Wukong. But once again, Black Myth Wukong was one of those industry defining or where it took over the news, the sales. So essentially they went with the publicity and they went with that over potentially what might have been the better games when it comes to overall. And that's whatever. It is what it is. It's also a business at the same time. And having Black Myth Wukong definitely gets a lot more eyes on the show. So I understand from that viewpoint. And for some people, it's probably a lot better than what the reviews are. It's not even just about, okay, well, they picked it because of sales. Some people really feel that it is maybe a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 or way better than what it even reviewed. So there's also that factor as well. I don't know every single journalist that voted in on it or every single media personality that was voting on it. So they definitely could have felt very differently about the game. But let's talk about one of the issues that I have with this. And obviously, Black Myth Wukong, it is what it is on that one. But Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, there are people that feel, and myself included, that this, in terms of this inclusion of a DLC that includes that you have to play another game to even access the DLC, I feel that there just should be a separate category for DLCs. Like if you want a category for DLCs and remasters and stuff like that, you should just have another category. Now, I find this interesting because shortly before the award nomination, the Game Awards actually hastily put up a FAQ saying that, oh yeah, DLCs, remasters, expansions, all that stuff is eligible. And it was funny because Broken Games, BG, he actually went to the Wayback Machine to check, well, when did they actually put this up? Or was this actually anywhere on their website? And it was put together like a day before. They hastily put it together in order to justify or in order to say, okay, well, we did say that was the thing. Now, here's the big issue that I have with this. You have to actually play another game to access the content in that game. If Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, a wholly independent game to where you can go out there and buy it and just pick up and play, and you didn't actually need to get through parts of Elden Ring in order to access that new game, I probably wouldn't have any issue with it. We've had expansions before when it comes to like The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine. That is a full independent expansion. But then we've also had games where you actually need to complete the previous game. Like let's say Monster Hunter Iceborne. It doesn't happen too often overall, but when it comes to the Game of the Year itself, it's very rare to see something to where you actually need to play a separate game in order to access that game and then it get nominated, because it now becomes two games that you need to access in order to play it, not just that game that released that year. So I do have an issue with that, and I wish that they would actually make it where there's an actual separate category for best remakes, best remasters, and all of that. And I know people are probably going to disagree because it's From Software, and From Software, you know, they make such great games and people love Elden Ring, and I completely get that. I understand that there's going to be people that disagree. I just feel that this was hastily put together to justify it for the reviewers overall. Now, I think that it also shines a pretty I would say, bias, light, and problem with the Game Awards is that there's no consistency overall, and that clearly a lot of people are just voting for certain things, for tokens or for whatever the case is, because there isn't consistency in this. We saw that, yes, they hastily put together this FAQ to justify it, but last year we had an incredible expansion that released that reviewed really well. That was a follow-up to a Game of the Year nominee, and that was Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. The journalists, the media people voted in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in 2022 as a Game of the Year nominee. It was included. So when 2023 comes and a fantastic expansion that explains so much and is so good and is 92 rated on Metacritic comes out, that is nowhere to be found. That is a major problem with the Game Awards, and it shows the implicit bias when it comes to From Software or when it comes to something that they want outside of what's actually the best when it comes to the game. So it's very unfortunate that Xenoblade Chronicles once again gets the snub here when it comes to the Game Awards, because they put out a great, awesome expansion and it was nowhere to be seen. And I thought, well, okay, that's fine. It's an expansion. You need Xenoblade Chronicles 3 to even access it. It's okay if it's not part of the Game of the Year discussion or the awards or anything. That's fine. It is what it is. But then now we have this with Elden Ring and it's all over the place. So, you know, I just think that there's definitely an inconsistency with that. And I think that it just shows the problem that they have with the Game Awards. And hopefully in the future, these type of things won't happen. So we can have a show to where there isn't that. But I think at the end of the day, there's always going to be some people upset or happy with whatever is there. So ultimately, they made DLCs, remasters, expansions. They made sure to clarify that so Elden Ring would be justified and solely for Elden Ring. Because before that, honestly, we've seen a ton of awesome expansions and remasters, DLCs, and stuff that does really good. And none of those are part of the Game of the Year discussion. So it's pretty clear as day what they did here and how they hastily put it together. But let's move on to a few other things here when it comes to the Game Awards and the nominees. Now, the best RPG category is going to be hotly contested. I know I'm going to be raging if Metaphor ReFantazio doesn't win, but best RPG nominee at the Game Awards, you've got Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. I think that Metaphor ReFantazio should win, in my opinion, in terms of a full, complete RPG. I think that there's so many great things about the game. Obviously, Elden Ring, that game is rated so high, and obviously they wanted to make sure that Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree was on everything, so I wouldn't be surprised if that game won. You also have most anticipated game, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, Ghost of Yotei, Grand Theft Auto 6, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and Monster Hunter Wilds. I think we all know that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to win that. Best Action Adventure nominees at the Game Awards as well. You've got Astrobot, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Cool to see that game in there. Silent Hill 2, Star Wars Outlaws, and The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. I'm not sure if Star Wars Outlaws should have been nominated at all. But hey, it's there. Next up, Best Action nominee at the Game Awards. Black Myth Wukong, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Warhammer 40k, Space Marine 2, and Stellar Blade. I would like to see Stellar Blade win that one, but we'll see overall with that. Best Game Direction nominees at the Game Awards, Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. I love what Metaphor ReFantazio did, but I wouldn't be surprised if Astrobot actually took that one home. And yeah, there's other categories, but those were kind of the main ones. I wanted to go over just my own personal thoughts on who I feel should win. I think it's pretty clear. Metaphor ReFantazio, that's the game that I feel is the best game of the year, at least for me. It's an individual game that can be played by itself. You don't need like Persona 5 or Metaphor Non-Fantazio or something else in order to access the actual game. It's not an expansion. It's an actual real full game that you can go and pick up right away and play it if you want. So I feel that that should be the game of the year this year. I think that it offers pretty much all of the awesome content that you'd expect for a game of the year category. It's got not the best visuals, but it's got smooth, great art direction and art design. It's got phenomenal music. It's got fun gameplay. It's got value and replay value all packed into there. there wasn't really any issues when it comes to bugs, glitches, or anything like that. It ran definitely good enough on my PlayStation 5 when I was playing. I didn't have any issues with it at all. So for me, Metaphor ReFantazio is the game of the year for 2024. And I think that it has a good chance at winning, but I think that Elden Ring or Astrobot, like for me, I had Astrobot as the front runner, but right now it's kind of weird. I'm not exactly sure which game will win. I'll probably have a prediction as we get closer to it, as I kind of do a little bit more research, but I'm really hoping that Metaphor ReFantazio wins, and there's a few reasons why. It'd be the first time ever that we get a Japanese RPG, old school, traditional one, as a game of the year winner. We've never gotten it. We've barely even gotten any nominees. I think Persona 5 was back in 2017 or so, but it's very difficult for these games to get nominated and get the recognition. So it would be really cool if Metaphor ReFantazio actually got that recognition and won game of the year. And I also think that it kind of stands toe-to-toe when it comes to the review scores. It's up there with any other game. So it's not like people didn't feel like the game was worthy of the praise and accolades that it's getting. So I'm hoping that Metaphor ReFantazio wins, but I do think that either Elden Ring or Astrobot also have a great chance at winning as well. So what do you guys think overall when it comes to the Game Award nominees and everything else that we went over? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other videos right here on screen. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.